Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Hey, any youngers, it's me, your host, Jen Glantz, back with another episode of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. This weekend, I realized that I need to do as much as I can to prepare for the end of the year, because I like to end the year feeling positive, feeling happy, feeling successful, but that is never how I end the year. Usually I end the year with regrets. Why did I not do this? Why did I not try harder at that? As an effort to get to December 31st and feel like I accomplished something this year, I decided to sit down and make a massive to-do list of everything I want to do before the end of the year. And in order to do this, because making that to-do list itself can be overwhelming, the first thing I did, I opened a Word document and I just started typing out random things I wanted to do. Like, one of the things I have to do is Adam and I have to get a joint bank account, a joint credit card. I mean, this is something we've been putting off for 2 years. We have to do that. And I wrote down all of these random tasks. Also, one of the things on the list was to get a vacuum. I know that sounds like, come on, Jen, you could do that. But there's other things too, like fix my website and change this and things like that. So I wrote one massive list. It was like 2 pages, single spaced, of things, like individual tasks. After that, because that was overwhelming, I then split it up into categories. So I made categories for my business, like what I want to do with the podcast, my newsletter. But then I also did a category called money, which organized all of the tasks around money. I did one for my Instagram, like all the things I want to change about my Instagram. I did one for the apartment. Like, we had to get rid of our Peloton bike we don't use. We have to clear out the laundry room space, like all this stuff. So I really just broke everything down into a category. And I took all the tasks and I put them inside of a category. After I did that, I determined, okay, how long would it take to finish this category? So like apartment stuff, I could probably do that in 2 or 3 days. Money stuff, that might take me a month realistically to find a financial advisor and to figure out the credit card and like all of this stuff. My newsletter I want to fix up. Okay, that's going to probably take me 7 days. And those days are probably going to be like 4 or 5 hours a day. So after I did that, I wrote down next to every category how long this category will take. Now, some categories are open-ended. Like, I have a Goofy category, and in that category, it says that Goofy has to lose 2.5 pounds. Doctors have been telling us this for months, so that's something I want to work on. That's not going to take 7 days or a week. I don't know how long that will take, right? But I at least said to myself, okay, I have like 2.5 more months before the end of the year. So I'm going to make sure that every single week I do something for that task, which is to start to figure out how to feed her a little bit less and give her more walks. Also on that list is to get Goofy to stay home alone for 4 hours. Right now she can stay home for 2 hours, and getting to 4 hours, again, won't be overnight, but every single month I can do something gradually to help that. So then after I did that, the next step was to figure out, okay, what do I want to start to do in October? There's like 3 more weeks left of October. What on this list can I just look at for October and focus on? I'm not even going to think about November and December. I'm just going to think about right now. That is sort of how I was able to organize my thought process around this stress I'm feeling about ending the year strong. So I hope that if you feel the same way, like you have so much to do, but you don't even know where to start, the best place to start, and you will feel so much better when you do this, is to sit down and write out everything. I gave myself like 3 days because, you know, when you write lists, sometimes you forget things. I gave myself 3 days to just pour everything out on the paper. And now I'm in go mode. I'm in work mode. And it's interesting because, when I decided to figure out what I want to do for October, what I want to focus on for October, I started off by just picking things that got me really excited. Like I've mentioned the newsletter. I want to update the logo of the newsletter. I want to switch the platform of the newsletter. I want to make it like a really big thing. And working on that has given me so much energy, and I'm excited to do that. So rather than starting with the tasks that bog you down, that make you feel so stressed, start with the fun ones, because then you get into this flow, this work mode, and there is nothing better than checking off a to-do list of things that you've done, especially as you move through it to the more harder items or the things that stress you out even more. To change the topic a little bit, last week's podcast was on a friendship inventory. I had mentioned that after my best friend broke up with me 4 years ago for reasons I still don't know, it prompted me to want to be a better friend. And one of the ways that I've tried to become a better friend is every single year around the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur, which is a holiday where you ask for forgiveness and you sort of examine how you lived your life for the past year. I do a friendship inventory. So if you didn't listen to that episode, definitely check it out because I go through exactly how I do the friend inventory. But one of the things I started to think about in this past week is how different I've become as a friend. And I wanted to share that with you. The other night, Adam looked at me and he said, "I'm really proud of you for having friends who you can be 100% yourself around." And when he said that, he said it because he's known since the day he's met me how hard that was for me to figure out. And the process honestly started when that friend broke up with me. I didn't know why she broke up with me, but it shattered my heart and my confidence as a person. If the person I felt the most comfortable with, which was her, didn't want to be around me, what did that mean? And it honestly meant that I had to do something to figure it out. So I spent so much time thinking about this. It took up so much mental space, spent a little money for therapy, not to understand why she walked out of my life, because that's something only she knows. And I don't want to speculate why, because that will just drive me crazy. But I spent all of this time because I wanted to figure out what I could do to be a better friend. And one of the things I realized about myself in general is that I'm a really tough person to get close with. The truth is, back then, during those years, anybody who knew me would say that I was closed off. I was private. I was really hard to get to know. People would say I was distant, secretive, a giant mystery, even though they've known me for so many years. And you might be thinking, how is this possible, Jen? You share so much of your life in your newsletter, in your podcast, on social media. And that is my life. That is exactly my life and who I am. I'm not making that up. But if we're one-on-one or we're good friends, I try not to really bring my whole self into the friendship. It's just this weird thing about me. When Adam and I first started dating like 6 years ago, I remember him saying to me all the time, "Jen, I wish more people in your life really knew the real you." And I would get so mad at him for saying that because I'm like, the real me? I am the real me. Like, why do you think I'm not the real me? But what he was really saying was that around a lot of people, he started to see that I was different. I was scared. I really backed down from showing off my entire personality, the deepness of who I am, the oddness of my brain. And I did that. And I figured this out. I did that. I was like that because I just desperately wanted people to like me, to love me so badly that I thought the only way to make that happen was to be less like me and more like the person I thought they wanted me to be. And if we go deep, deep, deep into this, it's probably because growing up, I was sort of bullied. I didn't have a lot of close friends. I went to this small school from kindergarten to 8th grade where every year it's the same 25 people in your class. And I was considered like the least cool person. I was the one made fun of. I was the one who like just people weren't nice to. I didn't have close friends. I wasn't invited to birthday parties. And if I was, it was because the parents forced them to invite me to birthday parties. And I think because I went through all of that, I always said to myself, like, when I can make friends eventually, I want to keep them. And I thought the only way to keep a friend was to not show who I was to dull me down. And I truly believed that for probably the first 30 years of my life. But I was so wrong. I'm starting to accept, and this has been really hard, that not everyone will like you because not everyone should like you. What kind of life is that where you have a million friends and everyone loves you? Like that's what I was going for originally, and it got me to lose my best friend that way. It's taken me years to change this about myself, and to be honest with you, I did it slowly. And this is how I did it. When I would meet somebody new, a brand new person who didn't know me, I would take a break from deflecting, talking about myself, and force myself to share something new with them. So before, if I was with a friend, I would do everything I could to ask them questions. Like people used to say like, Jen, you're always a podcast host, even when we're just out to dinner together, because you're always asking questions. Tell me about you. And I would say, oh, I'm not interesting. I have nothing going on. So the closest people in my life, I knew everything about them because I questioned them, and they knew nothing about me because when they tried to question me, I would just turn the conversation back on them. And this is something that I became aware of. And I stopped doing this when I met new friends. Rather than making the whole conversation about them, I would force myself to open up and share something about myself as often as possible. If they asked me how work was, I wouldn't say, it's good, and change the subject. I'd share something I was working on without being so self-conscious about it. If they asked me how I was doing, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm okay. I would tell the truth, the whole truth, even if it was dense, even if I was having a really bad day. And as I opened myself up to others like this, some people didn't like that. Some people tiptoed away. They didn't like who I was or what I had to say. But the truth is, more people than ever stuck around. This past week, a friend of mine who I met during the pandemic, because our dogs became friends, she recently moved to LA and she was back in Brooklyn. And she doesn't know me as this closed off version of Jen Glantz, the one who hides everything and shares nothing and makes it impossible to form a connection with. She doesn't know that person. She knows me as Jen Glantz. And just saying that just makes me want to cry, because for 30 years of my life, the people who knew me the best struggled to know me, and that was my fault. And finally, because I've slowly started to open myself up to people know me as Jen Glantz, as who I am, as like really the person I am, all of my oddness, all of my weirdness, all of my coolness, like they know it. And when we spent time together this past week, we laughed a lot. I told her more of like my deepest, darkest secrets. I admitted some of my opinions on topics that might be more controversial, and she didn't run away. And there were so many moments this week that I thought to myself, I can't believe that I have this type of friendship. I can't believe I have people in my life who know me, who really know me, and still like me. And not only like me, like they really love me. And that to me is like the craziest transformation of my life. That after almost 4 years of dealing with something so tough, losing a best friend, and starting to really look at myself, and not look at myself in the sense of why did she walk out of my life, but look at myself in the sense of, okay, what could I do to form other close relationships, and changed slowly. This is the outcome that I got. So the other night when Adam said to me, I'm proud of you for having friends who you can be your 100% true self around, all I could think about was how much better life is when you're not shying away from everything you are and everything you want to be. Dear friends out there listening, I know there's parts of you that you're hiding, that you're scared to show, and maybe you've longed for close connections with people and you don't know why they're not happening, and I don't know why either, but we can't always figure out the why of other people, but we can figure out the whys of ourselves. I know for me it's still very scary opening myself up to people, but I'm no longer scared about people leaving my life, which is something I was scared of when the best friend broke up with me. Now I'm happier that friendships end quicker. I'm happier that some acquaintances stay acquaintances, because I'm happier that the people who do become my friend after getting to know me are the people who are there because they know me. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz. Hey you! Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, All my love, Jen Glantz.